Hello everyone, this is a case study about Chile investigating the connection between the Cold War and new colonialism. In 1970, the Chilean Socialist Party won their first presidential election with their candidate Salvador Allende elected with plurality, winning 36% of votes. As commented by the National Library of Chile, for the first time in history, a socialist and Marxist politician arrived at the government through popular votings. According to the Constitution of Chile, a ratification process is required if the candidate is elected with only plurality and not majority. It is henceforward revealed that the enforcement of neocolonialism in Chile is to a greater extent interconnected with the Cold War because of U.S.'s geopolitical demand in Latin America and ideological conflict with communist infiltration in the Western Hemisphere, which spiked U.S.'s covert activities to undermine Chileans' political stability. However, the redirection of economic policy, simultaneously occurring with political riots, is, to a lesser extent, more interconnected with its domestic political transformation than with the Cold War. The first reason I am putting forth is the U.S.'s demand of geopolitical consistency to sustain its Latin American interests. Chile has the highest copper reserve in the world, taking up 25.9% of world's total copper reserves. During the 20th century, copper export gradually became the main beam of export economy of Chile. Meanwhile, the United States companies Anaconda Copper and Kenica Utah Copper provide 3/4 of Chilean copper output. For Chile, having such a precious and strategic industrial resource controlled by foreign powers is always ideal. Therefore, as Allende became president, he intensified the nationalization process of Chilean copper mines through a much more radical approach. The culmination of copper mine nationalization occurred on July 11, 1971, at the National Congress Chile, through unanimous voting, approved the constitutional amendment, Law No. 17,450, to legalize the total nationalization of copper. Thereby, with the U.S.'s control over such important industrial resource at the brink of termination, it eventually led to the U.S.'s support over anti-Allende and anti-communist forces in Chile, destabilizing Chile in favor of the interest of the United States, to which connects to my second reasoning, fear of communist infiltration. Reported by the New York Times on November 8, 1970, Allende reiterated the phrases genuinely revolutionary government, the power of the dominant class, and the working class republic, as he had been elected by the Chilean Congress as the official president. Just a day after, on November 9th, Nixon, the at the time U.S. president, orally said, "If he can prove he can set up an Marxist anti-American policy, others will do the same thing." The sentence from Nixon outrightly revealed the concern of the U.S. government of the possible demonstration effect from the success of Allende in Chile of establishing a socialist, if not a communist state, in South America, adding to the one already in Cuba. Furthermore, the same U.S. concern could also be witnessed in the definition of Allende's government from the U.S. administration, with a repetitive phrase such as hostile, communist, pressure, and prevention, falling, model. In 1923, the U.S. President James Monroe for the first time elaborated the Monroe Doctrine, essentially stating that South America is like U.S.'s backyard and cannot be intervened. Carrying on, the so-called intervention during the Cold War is now the infiltration of communism and socialism. Thus, the evident clash of the persistence of the Monroe Doctrine in Latin America and Allende's idea of establishing a working-class republic culminated in the subsequent 1973 coup d'etat in Chile. On September 11, 1973, the Chilean military officer Augusto Pinochet overthrew the democratically elected President Allende and established a military junta. During the process, Allende, who refused to hand over the power to the rebellions, committed suicide in the presidential palace as the rebel army entered. Ironically, the CIA itself confessed that it had ongoing intelligence with some plotters, and of which I quote, probably appeared to condone it. Furthermore, it was revealed that the CIA had attempted to disqualify Allende's candidacy through military means in 1970, which did not succeed. The agency confirmed that it provided various armaments to Chile. Moreover, an execution group related to the CIA schemed to kidnap the Chilean military commander general at the time, René Schneider, of which it accidentally concluded as a murder. Following the murder, the anger from Chilean population resulted in Congress ultimately electing Allende as the president. Evidently, U.S.'s scheme backfired. Its efforts not only did not successfully remove the popular Marxist candidates from entering office, but also incited national angers in Chile that accelerated the recognition of the democratically elected socialist sympathetic candidate. However, on the flip side, The subsequent economic reforms conducted by Pinochet appeared to be executed on behalf of the Chilean nation itself and was not deliberately targeting to solely favor the United States. The reforms introduced various measures, all in the effort to decrease Chilean government deficits and stabilize Chilean economy due to the unoptimistic economic situation, such as inflation and depletion of foreign reserves caused by Allende's socialist economic reforms that, to some extent, were contributed by the price decline in Chilean export backbone, copper, and, meanwhile, an expansion in government expenditure. Therefore, with all previous elaboration, the economic policy and reforms executed by the altering Chilean government were mostly adjusted based on the conditions of Chilean economy itself and had not shown extensive and direct foreign economic interference. In this case study of Chile, two theories of history were introduced to evaluate events in history. First, the geographic theory was implemented, since the geographical circumstances of Chile are abundant for consideration, from copper mines in the north of the country to its position in the peculiar region of South America. Second, historical materialism was also applied in explaining and evaluating the social status of Chile. For example, during the political riots in Chile in 1973, economy was one of the major propelling factors invoking the turmoil, since Allende's socialist economic reforms had not been significantly fruitful. In conclusion, for Chile, although that the dramatic direction of Chilean economic policy is not majorly connected, the Cold War still deeply interconnects to neocolonial progression in Chile, in which the United States, covertly funding opposition forces, attempts to destroy socialist development in Chile in order to maintain the former's geopolitical interests, especially the control of copper mines and ideological supremacy in Latin America.